Hello, I'm back again after another one of those pauses for doing grown-up things. So all of that's out of the way, I hope, and we can get back to some model making. So we are back with another Airfix classic. This time it is, well, it's one of these. What an appalling piece of box art. Have you ever seen such a dreadful, uninspiring, dismal piece of anything, really? I wouldn't buy it, and I have, because I know the aircraft's good. Consequently, this was cheap, because nobody wants to buy this version. Look, it's got an Airfix logo on it, for goodness sake. This shame. No wonder they went down the pan. Anyway, there it is. Lockheed Hudson. It was one of the last of the Airfix models I made as a kid. And I was surprised at how good it was, actually. And what a, I won't say beautiful aircraft, but what a very smart, very balanced, sturdy little aircraft it was. And it was, I kind of left it to the end because it didn't look inspiring anyway. It was a kind of dumpy little thing. And I bought it because I was working my way through the Airfix models and its time had come. And I was pleasantly surprised. I know I will be pleasantly surprised again, even though I know what's coming. But not by the box. Open sesame. If only that worked, eh? But I prepared in advance, so we just get a big sheet of paper. That'll be the instructions. A lot of options on the markings. And there's the stuff. Let's get it out and get it painted. First bits coming together. Obviously the interior, which is kind of pleasantly simple, but there's enough of it there. And that all needs a bit of a paint up. Tail, plane, very, very interesting. Gun turret. Rather like a cauldron. Both wings and then engines, and let's move them down a bit, come on. Engines and stuff, and then really there's only that to go, plus the glass. So it's a lovely simple model, moves along swiftly and is a joy to make. I remember enjoying making this when, you know, decades ago. Again, it's another archetypal Airfix beauty. This is what got me into model making and kept me in it for so long, and has got me back into it again. Nice, neat and tidy little models like this. Wonderful stuff. And just one of those little notes of interest. Look at how that fits in. It's quite a nice design, really. Very smooth. Very simple. I'm talking about the actual aircraft design. I suppose the model design does it justice too. So that's very nice. I've glued the wings onto the fuselage, but I haven't glued the two sides of the fuselage together, and I haven't glued the tail on. So there it is, looking very lovely under the circumstances, but in bits. So gradually got to work my way into all this. Now just letting black dry on various bits that need to be black, then they'll go in, then probably that's it for putting the two sides together. It was great fun. I enjoyed that. Just a thought. He looks like a hieroglyphic. That's just me, really. There he is. Just a little thing. This fella, he's probably the earliest pilot, or the earliest one I know of. Apart from a World War I pilot. British British aircraft. Can't remember which one. Anyway, so this pretty much qualifies as one of the oldest. He's very simple, very plain. I'm not as big a fan of him as I am of the kind of bomber guy with one leg slightly forward and one arm forward. He's cool. And this poor fella, I've noticed this before, so it's worth adding in, doesn't fit in a seat that is anywhere near a right angle. It's too much like he's standing up. So this all got a bit of a mess. Pushing things around, trying to get him in. And in the end I had to cut the locating pin off the bottom of the seat. I mean, his head won't come out through the top, so that's alright, it won't stop the glass coming on. But he's just not shapely enough. The other thing is I couldn't see the little box on the board through the window well enough, so I've enlarged it slightly. That should be visible. And there's a little chap in the gun turret as well. Anyway, poor old him. Yeah, I might put somebody else in there, somebody better. You never know. Now, I've been thinking about doing a couple of aircraft with a very patchy surface colour, as if they've been through an awful lot of a battering. And this one seems appropriate, particularly because I'm going to do New Zealand markings and colours. So slightly scuffed, patchy, uneven surface is what I'm going to aim for. You're thinking, you what? Why would doing a New Zealand version of this aeroplane mean that it's got to be scruffy? I didn't explain myself very well there, did I? Well, the reason being that these are pretty much spending all their time and effort in kind of coastal duties, which can be very, very wearing on the aircraft. I met someone years ago who'd been in British Coastal Command, and apparently the salty air can really make a mess of the surface of the aircraft and other things. Anyway, I digress. The other thing is I hadn't really explained that I was going to do the New Zealand version. A further question is probably coming to mind, which is, why on earth are your instructions crumpled up? I will deal with all of these. First of all, I'm going for Lockheed Hudson GR3, number 4 GR Squadron, Royal New Zealand Air Force, Fiji 1943. That's the one I'm going for. And one of the reasons is you don't get many New Zealand Air Force aircraft, do you? So jump at the chance. And it has a very interesting roundel, so got to do that. I didn't do the Swedish version of the Handley Page Hampton. I feel I missed out on a trick there. Next you get a slightly different version of the standard British camouflage, which is sort of a grey and green. I checked out the main numbers. We have grey, we have green. It's actually a weird dark blue grey. And also the underside I have put icky beige green. I know which one it is, don't worry, I've got it in my paint pot already. Box. So there we are. That's the answer. Oh, crumpled. I've done this at the end and I just realised I didn't explain myself. And I just screwed this up to throw it on the fire. So, sorry about that, folks. Made a bit of a mess, really. Anyway, you also get an Australian version, which I was tempted to do, but you get a few other aircraft with Australian markings and 2 British ones. We'll come back to all of that later. I hope that explained everything. I've got the majority of the paintwork done. The grey was really strange because it was so dark, and I've been looking at pictures on the internet, photographs of restored versions of this aircraft and so on, and it was a lot bluer. I've been checking I got the right number tin of paint, it was all correct, and in the end I ended up on a couple of kind of chat sites. I think one was called Brit Modeler where people are asking, have I got the right colour? Is this grey correct? And there's a series of dark greys. I think there's a sea grey, and then there's this one, and people are saying it looks really weird. So obviously some of the Humberol greys are odd, but there's a whole bunch of people saying yeah, they look odd but they're accurate. And one person in particular said, well, you've got to realise if the plane's been in use a lot, you're going to get natural fading, which I often work into the models as part of the weathering process, and I wanted this one to look rough and battered, so I've done that. So what's happened is we've got the original darker grey, but with two different shades of slightly lighter bluer grey overlaying it. So depending on the light and how you're looking at it, it's almost like a 2 or 3 tone. I've done similar with the green. The green's only 2 shades, and then I've put a kind of highlighting, which you might just be able to see really clearly on the front leading edge of the wings, the engines, the tail, and a few other bits. And it's now looking more like I had in mind, so I'm happy with that. 3 shades of grey, 2 of green, and a bit of highlighting, as well as a bit of low lighting as well, and a mucky black fingerprint I've just seen, but I won't point that out. Just a couple of things worth adding from the instructions leaflet, where it has the little history section. It says the Hudson was the first American aircraft to be used operationally during the Second World War. It's very interesting because despite the fact that it's got British, Australian and New Zealand markings, it's a Lockheed, so it's American. In fact, it says in use by RAF Coastal Command shortly before the outbreak of war, which is very interesting, because the first Hudson flew in December 1938, so it's just very slightly pre-war, and the instructions actually say in December 1838, which I don't think was really, that's a misprint, isn't it? It was developed to British requirements from the Lockheed Type 14 Super Electra, which I don't know anything about, and that's a very interesting name, even for that era. And as for the dorsal turret, it says that it was in fact a Bolt and Paul turret, which was fitted once it got to Britain. So it's I was kind of saying positive things about the turret earlier, wasn't I? So it's a very interesting shape and addition to this sturdy little aircraft. And also it says it was ideally suited for reconnaissance duties and replaced the Anson, that's the Avro Anson obviously, and somewhere in a box I've got one of them to make, so we can make a kind of a nice full circle on this one day. So this is the interesting Hudson. As I say, I like it. It's a sturdy looking aircraft, and it's a very, very sturdy model, and it's very rewarding to make. So this, to my mind, this is another one of those good ones. If there are any problems with it, it's probably me, not the model, as usual. Which only leaves me to say thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing. Lots of people are doing that, that's amazing. And I know this might not be the most popular finish and colours and all of that kind of thing. So the good news is I've got another one, and I'll do it in the standard British colours like this one, and markings like this one. So that's one to look forward to, isn't it? Anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and with any luck there'll be more along shortly. Are they your instructions? Are they? Nothing like a good set of instructions. Hello.